Gutted, gutted. Hey folks, welcome back to the big barn build. Today, it's not good news. We have a bit of a DIY disaster. Let me show you what happened. If you've been following along the project, you'll know that in September, I think it was, we made a start on our brickwork, and we've laid 7,000 or so bricks around the whole perimeter of this barn, and we decided to use a lime putty mortar. That's a really traditional type of mortar that's really kind to the bricks, breathable, and it has a really nice aesthetic to it. But there's some downsides to it, and they've just shown themselves. First up, let's head down to the south end, which is where we started. So this is over 2 months ago. So you can see today, even though it's a winter's day now, or a late autumn day, the wall is warm in the sunshine and it's charging up a bit like a battery, and it's going to stay warmish, or at least warmer throughout the cold evening and throughout the night. So tonight it's going to freeze, and this has been here long enough that our mortar is holding up fine. So two positives this end: sunlight and the fact that it was done 2 months ago. We're not putting Hessian on this anymore. We think this is going to be okay, but that's not the case elsewhere. If we work round in the timeline of what was done, this is all in that same sort of time period, and everything is good. So this therefore was about a month ago. Now here's a good example. You can see lack of gutter, splashback, bouncing up. The bottom of that wall is therefore not drying out like it should do. That's only a very short-term issue because the guttering will be here next week and we can get that up and everything should dry out down there. That's quite a dry area. There's no standing water against it. There's no soil against it. There's a DPC. Hopefully that will even out and dry. But we've had a huge amount of rain followed by some really cold nights. And while most of this, I'm pleased to say, is okay, and it's been there long enough that we shouldn't have to worry. As soon as we ran to the north side, so we carried along, and if you remember, we stopped at the oak and then we jumped across. So this is all held up absolutely fine. But as we go around the building, it's getting younger and younger, and we're suffering around there. But it's even worse at the front on the two panels we've only just completed. And even though these have been covered in Hessian, they've got wet, they've stayed wet, then they've frozen. The Hessian didn't do enough of a job. So up here, this kind of looks okay, but the only reason it looks okay is because I've just basically broken off a crust. Have a look at this. So what's happened? Well, you can see here, the front face of our lime has broken off where the frost has got to it, and that's just no good. You can see it's just flaking off like some ancient 200-year-old wall with failing lime mortar. Now, I've got one thing on our side, which is doesn't actually seem to have affected the mortar behind. This mortar behind looks the same as the fresh mortar probably after 3 or 4 days. So it started to carbonate, but it's still a little bit workable. So can we save it? Well, the only way we're going to be able to save it, I think, is to basically redress it by just chipping off that. It's like a 2mm bit that's blown on the front, 2 or 3mm. So if we take that off until there's no loose stuff left, it leaves it a bit too textured, and while that's probably a really nice breathable finish, it looks a bit too rough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the broken face, which is quite satisfying but also a bit depressing. And you can see it's showing through our yellow sandy mortar. That's really crumbly there. So the frost can't have penetrated. I mean, it was only for 2 nights or so. It was when I came out of hospital, so I couldn't really have done much about it anyway. But it hasn't penetrated deeper than that crust. All of that seems absolutely fine, albeit soft and uncured. So if we do that, and then I'm just going to go along it and just make sure it's compacted in, and then a bit like what we were doing a month ago, we'll use the brush just to make sure it's all compacted in there without going too deep. Now the worry is, actually look at that, the brush takes off all that crumbly stuff. Maybe that's the best way to do it, just brush the whole thing. But the worry is, if we're doing that, if we're not careful, we're going to end up brushing these and finishing them back too deep, and these joints are just going to be too recessed. So the worst case scenario is that on the walls that are damaged, which is about a third of the building, which was basically too fresh to go into late autumn, we'll have to rake out 25-30mm back and repoint these in the spring. I don't think any of the damage is structural. It's not like it's affected the lime on the bed. It's just that front face of the pointing, and it's just so infuriating. But I don't know, it's what it is now. We can't really do too much about it. We just should have made sure that the guttering was up. And what we're going to do is, I've just bought some nice dry new Hessian. We're going to double sheet this with Hessian, and then we're going to use scaffold sheets, the clear plastic that we had around the whole building last year, over the top of that. That means that the Hessian will be able to stay dry. We'll have a waterproof sheet over the top, which we can fix to the top or onto the battens. So it will be dry and warm, and it'll have 2 or 3 layers of material to hopefully keep this warm. This just never sees the sun. If I thought about it now, we could have probably done ourselves a favour and started this end in September, which would have given this, 6 to 8 weeks before the colder weather. I think there might be some repointing to do next year. Gutted. Had so much going for it, and we were doing so well, but time was against us. If we'd done it all in a 2-week period, at the same speed as Brickies maybe, then it would have been okay. Just too slow. Maybe we're going to get away with it. It's definitely deeper than we'd originally planned, but you do get back to solid, good stuff. So as long as we can make sure it's fairly smooth and even, it's just going to give even more of an old worldy look, isn't it, I guess. Now, of course, this is the very last bit to be done. This is probably going to be the worst. Well, that's interesting. This was, well, it's a week younger than the other side, but it's had a piece of Hessian over most of it, and while it was blown a bit, nowhere near as much over there where it's coming off in big flakes. So just goes to show, I mean, it was only that. It's not even the main bit we've been using. We've been using a big length around there. So it's definitely helped the Hessian, so that's a good sign in that if we can brush this up like the other side, put double thickness, it's got to help. But yeah, it's definitely not as bad as the other side. That's way older over here. That's absolutely fine. But it still might make me sleep easier if I cover that just for the foreseeable future. Oh, they're trials and tribulations. So I guess one question is, what could we have done differently? Well, we could have used a cement mortar, which would have been harder than the brick. So less ideal that way, but it certainly wouldn't have been affected by the frost. Or we could have used an NHL mortar, and by using an NHL 3.5 or something like that, our mortar would probably still end up harder than the bricks, but it would have fast-tracked it somewhat more than using an air line like this, and perhaps wouldn't have been quite so problematic. So what we could have done is we could have got this exact same mortar mix. You can order it from Timor, which is the place where we bought this from, but you can order it as an NHL blend. Therefore, they give you all the aggregate pre-mixed in bulk bags, and then pallets of NHL, and then you mix up on site. But anyway, we learn. Just looks even more rustic, doesn't it? Okay, I think we can live with that. So we just need to go along and see if I can sort out any delicate bits down that long side. But I'm going to get this wrapped now, because if we didn't have to see this for another month, it wouldn't be a problem. Well, we'll check on it obviously, but I don't need to do anything to that. Just if we wrap it now, we're good. Nice, dry, warm Hessian. I think you can get, I looked on some of the lime supply websites, you can get a thicker grade version of this, but it was over double the price, so I figured double this up on the delicate bits and one ply on the other bits. Right, that's got to be cozy. Double thickness, secured in, and it's a longer Hessian, so it goes right down to the bottom. So all we need to do now is put the plastic over the top. It should be good. All right. And just like that, we are basically at a point where we should have been a month ago. We should have wrapped it up like this right at the beginning. There was just so much water a few weeks back, and it obviously just sat on top of the wall, splashed up at the bottom, and then hit by a frost after. It was always going to happen. So, lesson learnt. So what we've got is plastic sheeting, followed by nice dry Hessian. Obviously air gaps between, so whatever happens now, Rain's not really going to go down the back of there, and even if it does, there's just this, you know, even if you get Hessian saturated and it freezes into a ice blanket, it still creates a bit of an air gap behind. So we've done what we can. Now it's just down to, well, it's up to the elements to see what happens next. But while we were at it, we thought there's no point risking anything. So that's all double Hessianed and wrapped in plastic. This is all Hessian single layer, but obviously this side had already dried. So we've done that all the way to there. And then the south end, we haven't got enough of the tarpaulin stuff, so we've just got Hessian. But I think that end's pretty safe now. Well, it should be. I mean, that was September when we did that. So lesson learned, if you're going to do lime and you're very slow at bricklaying, don't start in September, start sooner. But do remember that you can have the reverse. And if it was a searing hot August, you'd be struggling just as much, doing pretty much exactly the same as this by misting. Well, you'd be putting Hessian up, but you'd want to be keeping that damp. You might even want to put some sheeting up as well. You really need to protect it from the wind and the heat. So, yeah, you really do have to pick your moment. And whatever that moment is, be conscious of what you can do to mitigate any issues. So, anyway, disaster over, I hope. Worst comes to worst, we just repoint it. We've got 2 big bulk bags, which I am going to put in the barn because I want to keep them frost free, but 2 big bulk bags. So I've got enough material to actually repoint the whole thing if I had to. Obviously I don't want to. So that's been the midweek issue over on the big barn build. On the cabin build, we're actually jumping back on the tools over here because it's been 2 years plus and we've got no guttering on here still, which is just stupid. It's why there's watermarks on the wall and why there's a wet front door step and slippy bits down here. So the guttering's been sat there. It's just one of those things we've not had time to do. So we're actually going to get up there. That's why the scaffolding's moved around here already. We're going to get the guttering on both sides, some downpipes. The downpipe up that end can just go over into the hedge. But basically in the next video, we're going to get that done. There's also no bar trim up here. They're sat down there in the hedge. They've been here ready and waiting, but still not up. So we might have a little blitz and do a half-day roof project on the cabin tomorrow, and that might be the next video. As for the big barn build, well, we are going to dive inside and focus on a couple of other projects soon because weather's against us and we're just waiting on materials now. We've got sills ordered but not here, guttering ordered but not here, purlins for the wall cladding ordered, not here, cladding sat at the sawmill, can't be installed yet, and the metal cladding for the ends I still need to measure up and get ordered. So that needs to sit dormant. Indoors we can crack on. We've got ceilings to go up on the top floor, all the ceiling joists or ceiling tracking, and then we can start building some of the stud walls upstairs. So lots going on in there, and it won't be long before we can then start on the MVHR, which is the next big project. But I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. Feel free to tell me I'm a numpty on that lime fail, but you know, c'est la vie. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself. We'll see you next time.